All right, we'll call to order the Old Saybrook Planning Commission and Housing Task Force meeting for Wednesday, December 3rd. Go over the roll call. Nick Prevost, Tom here. Doug McCracken's here.
Here.
Mike Bender here. Tina Rupp is out. Aaron Tornio is out. I will sit Dennis for Tina. And Megan was supposed to be on. Did you?
She's not on right now.
No, she's not on right now. Okay. We'll move forward. The minutes. If I can get a motion to approve minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes with a couple changes.
Okay.
On the bottom of page 2, the two motions were not approved. So the last word in each of those summary paragraphs, instead of saying approve 040, it should either say like disapproved or not approved.
Right.
So Karen can change that
Which-
to the correct word.
Which do you want?
Well, I mean, if the vote in favor,
Is
the vote for approval is 0 approval, 4 against, maybe that's correct.
Isn't that enough?
Right, but it's that last approve 040, that's not correct. It should be like, it's like
Yeah.
a summary.
Yeah, because I mean, the vote for the motion was to approve, and the vote was, 0 for,
Disapprove.
yeah, and I actually think it was 5, because Tina was here. so
Tina
that-
was not sworn in, so that's why she's not
Okay.
included on that,
Okay.
just in case something comes up.
And I guess maybe on the minutes one, you got her on there as 5.
I left that because she did vote, because that's
Okay.
more,
Alright.
room, but for the actual, you know,
Alright.
since something was not referred and I just,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
okay, sorry.
Yeah, so it could be
Yeah.
changed to disapproved or opposed, Chris probably knows the right word.
Just to make sure it's clear that
Right.
it was not approved.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so the motion is on the floor.
Any other discussion? Second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay. Approve the motion with the change.
All those in favor?
All those in favor with the change?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Right. Any correspondence? I'm gonna assume no. This is out. He's ill.
Yeah.
Move on to the election of officers. Nomination for the office of chair.
Nominate myself.
Needs a second.
Second.
Second that.
So do we want to do it one at a time or do we want to do a slate?
If you're gonna nominate, you wanna do the whole slate at once? Or is there another nomination for chair?
Megan is here too
There
now.
isn't. Megan, okay. Now that Megan's here, I will seat Megan for Aaron. We have one nomination for chair. Hearing no others. Going once, going twice. Mike Bender. Okay. Vice chair.
So are we voting or?
I guess, are we creating a slate or are we?
Yeah, how do you want to do it?
It doesn't matter. We could create a slate if you want. Okay, I'll nominate Nick Provost to be vice chair.
Accept.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Anyone else for vice chair? Okay. And the last office is secretary. Any nominations for secretary? Doug McCracken.
They want to nominate, yeah.
Okay.
Tina.
And we would really need her to accept.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I accept.
All right, thank you. So the slate is Michael Bender for chair, Nick Prevost for vice chair, and Doug McCracken for secretary. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstains? Very good. Thank you. Now we'll move on to the real business.
So when does that go into effect?
That, do I think okay now or next meeting?
Yeah.
Alright. That's good.
Yeah.
We're actually, we'll get through the business, then we'll talk about next week. So, we have two referrals, one on accessory apartments, petition to amend the zoning regulations, section 53 special standards for accessory apartments to eliminate the 12,500 square foot lot size, allow for non-conforming structures constructed prior to January 1st, 1944 that are non-conforming. The bulk regulations to be used as accessory apartments to modify section 11.7 prohibition accessory apartments detached. Remove flat size requirement. And Ed, do you have any comments? You want to-
Yeah, this is my application. So I just have a few things to run through with you. So this is application to amend the zoning regs. As was stated, the two main goals of the application are number one, to eliminate what's in the accessory apartment regs right now, which is the requirement that you have to have at least 12,500 square feet to have an accessory apartment. And then number two is to grandfather in structures if they were built before January 1, 1944, which is, I think, the implementation of the zoning in town. So if you have an old building that's in the setback or in the tidal wetlands or in the gateway, then you can have an accessory apartment in that. If you want to build a new structure for an accessory apartment or an addition, it has to comply. So, and part of the rationale behind that is the 1944, there's currently a zoning regulation that if you have a building that was built in before that date, you can convert that to a two-family. So it's kind of consistent with converting it to a family, to a two-family. What we're seeking here, and this is actually a collaborative effort. Chris had kind of started it. I have a client who has 10,800 square feet with a little small house located within a setback and wants to keep that 700 square foot house and build a main house in front of it. So that's frankly why I'm here, pushing the envelope a little bit. But Chris had already kind of started this, and I thought getting rid of the 12.5 is a good thing because it's going to open up more properties in the 8,000-10,000 square foot range that can accommodate an accessory building or accessory apartment, can accommodate the septic necessary for it, and that's really what's going to be the inhibitor. Right now, the inhibitor is 12,500 square feet. So that gives you a little bit of the background. From a plan of conservation and development perspective, you have policy number 3, which is increase residential development densities in targeted areas. So again, this isn't going to lead to like over exasperation, but it is going to make more properties eligible to have attached or detached accessory apartments. You got to still fit the septic, which is going to eliminate many of the smaller properties. So I think this is really going to benefit kind of the mid-sized properties. And obviously we didn't, we included the 1944 provision in there so that there can't be, oh, I have a garage, I want to convert that in the setback. It really has to be an older structure to be eligible. And section 11 is amended to basically reiterate that you can't get variances for any of these to go around the rules. So that's the simple background of why we're here.
So do you know the history, how they came up with 12,500?
That's a non-conforming lot size in Saybrook. So if you have 12,500 square foot vacant lot, you can build on it. So it's a little wacky because Residence A, the beach areas are all in Residence A. The minimum lot size for a subdivision in Residence A is 20,000 square feet, which there are very few properties that are even larger than that. So there aren't many properties eligible for subdivision. There are a lot of vacant pieces of land, especially in the beaches. There's these little. So I think at some point they said, hey, if you have one of those vacant pieces of land, you can't build on it unless that's 12.5. So that 12.5, there's a provision in the non-conforming lot section, because obviously under 20,000 is non-conforming, that you can't build on a vacant piece unless you have 12.5. I don't know where the methodology for 12.5 was, but that's been in effect for the 20 years that I've been doing this. So I think when they came up with accessory apartment regs over the last few years, they just threw that 12.5 on there as a as a somewhat of a restriction on having too many accessory apartments in town. That's my sense.
The other thing I noticed, what you've stricken out is, or more, 12,500 square feet or more when served by public water. So you're totally eliminating that, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an interesting question, and I have to say that's actually, I think, part of what Chris did. So and when you're not served by public water, well, together with septic become major inhibitors, right? Because now you have a 75-foot radius, not only from your own well, but from other neighbors' septic systems, or wells, excuse me. So where you can fit septic on a piece of property is very limited. So it's difficult to get additional buildings served by additional septic systems on properties with wells. So I don't really have a good answer as to whether it makes sense to have 12.5 when served by public water taken out. But that's my only thought is it's not going to lead to this onslaught of accessory apartments.
Yeah, I'll just share. So I guess one of my concerns is, so this is like a housing density issue, and it just feels like there's no limits. It's, you had mentioned, Ed, or Attorney Casella, the 8 to 10,000 square foot range. What can we put that in here? I mean, you don't have any minimum in it, right?
Yeah. I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to it if you wanted to make that recommendation to the zoning commission. I'm sure that's something they could.
I mean, but it does reduce the minimum, but you're only converting like existing structures. Is that what this?
Well, no,
Or could you?
it does
You
two
can have
different.
attached or detached.
Yeah.
It's like two sections.
Right, well, that's what so that can be created using an existing non-conforming structure. That's what if you have to use an existing structure.
And it has to have been built before January 1st, 19.
Yeah, an existing structure that was built before 1944.
Well, wait a minute, is this two parts in
That's what
section
I'm trying
B?
to, yeah.
You can
The way
have
you explained it, Ed, you have
an attached or detached on any size lot. And then separately, you can have an attached on a non-conforming lot. That's the way I read it.
So all right. Yeah, so I think that's correct. You can have attached or detached on any size lot. But you have to meet the regulations, which is in this, when you're gonna build, you have to meet the regulations. Except you can have an accessory apartment in a non-conforming structure if it was built before 1944, it's not in a flood zone and you're not expanding it. That's kind of.
And it's attached.
No,
it can be
that could be attached or detached.
Like if you had a non-conforming garage, I mean, so you could convert that non-conforming garage into an apartment, but you couldn't build a new.
Non-conforming.
I guess, or even you couldn't really build a new conforming structure.
No,
The
you
lots are
could.
too small.
You could build if you had 10,000 square feet and you wanted to build a house that complied and an attached or detached accessory apartment, you could do that under these regulations, as long as it complies with setbacks and coverage and everything else. So it opens up accessory apartments for any lot of any size, number one. That's kind of the big picture. And then the little piece is you can put an attached or detached accessory apartment in an existing structure if it doesn't comply with zoning, provided that the structure was there before 1944.
Anything you do that's before 1944 would have to follow all regulations. They probably would not be able to do it on a lot of 8,000 square feet and be conforming. If it's detached.
I understand what you're saying. I guess, it'd be good to see maybe Jeff Jacobson or somebody lay that out, like it's impossible under this. You know what I'm saying? I just feel like this is it's too global, and, there could be ADUs popping up everywhere, and, it's not what
They're really a bad thing.
detached ADUs in these neighborhoods, and, people moved into these residential zones thinking, all right, I have, I don't know, an acre or 2 acres, and now I've got all these ADUs around me. It's, I mean, I'm all for ADUs, but it's just, we need to respect the historical part.
If you have 1 or 2 acres, all bets are off. This is for the people that don't have 1 or 2 acres, that have less than 12,500 square feet.
I mean, I don't think you're gonna get, because I mean, section E which is not being changed here, is that the accessory apartment, can't exceed 1/3 of the gross floor area of what's already there.
Right.
Like, what the maximum it could be is 1,000 square feet, and if you're already on a lot that's 10,000, you're probably talking a house that is already less than 1,000, so now your apartment is like 200 square feet. 300
Yeah,
square
so
feet.
let's take, we're familiar with like Cornfield Point where the density is very thick. I mean, you're gonna have like ADUs going in there and more parking and.
If they're on, if it's on an existing structure, so we're not adding more buildings to space, and you already have to meet the septic and the water.
It could be,
I don't think
it could be a
it's an
detached building.
If you
met
can
the
fit it,
setback.
You should fit it.
That's why I said it's gonna be difficult to do that on the smaller lots. You're going to need 8 to 10,000 square feet. So
And anyone who has a double lot in Cornfield Point, they've already taken up that with a bigger house,
Yeah.
for the most part.
I understand what you're saying. It's, so the extremes are, like say a Cornfield Point lot, which maybe it won't happen, and then you get the bigger lots where it could happen. So
Right.
where's the in between? I'm just not that familiar with.
I mean, that's one of my questions, like, do we know how many lots in town like this would even apply to?
no,
There,
a lot. I mean, it's,
these are any constraint, it has to be less than 12,000.
Yeah.
It has to already have existing structure that could be converted, and you have to have a big enough septic system, so.
yeah, and
there
I
are
just,
lots of variables.
well, no, the existing structure piece is only if you're trying to put it in a non-existing, existing non-conforming structure.
Okay.
If you had 8,000 square feet and you wanted to build a conforming garage and put an apartment above it, you could do that.
Or if you had a garage
feet.
already and you wanted to put an apartment above it, you could do it.
But most garages are in the setback.
Right.
But this
They're on the
might be,
small, and so that you wouldn't be able to do that unless you can prove that garage was built before 1944.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
So Mike, the first 2 lines of paragraph B,
yeah,
where it says are met, read that as if there's a period after
Yeah.
Right.
are met.
Correct.
So you can build the detached one.
yes, yeah.
If you meet all the setbacks, no matter what the
Right.
lot size is, because we're removing the 12.5,
Correct.
Right.
right? But then separately, it talks about non-conforming lots, this 1944, what you can do with those.
Well, yeah, that's the non-conforming structure part, so yeah, so you could build a new conforming structure, or you could use an existing non-conforming structure.
Right.
Okay.
If it,
In a new conforming structure with this change can go on any size lot, as long as you meet the setbacks.
Right.
And I understand if
and
it's a
coverage,
quarter of an acre,
Yeah.
And septic,
it's gonna be tough.
That's right.
Septic, parking,
everything.
yeah.
right. But it just, I don't have that level of detail, like, okay, what's the what's the size? And this feels very global, so I'm not comfortable.
I guess I just don't see a ton of people running out to build ADUs.
I agree with that. And I would also add that in our affordable housing plan, promoting ADUs as a strategy for increasing our housing supply was one of the primary things that we promoted in there. So this seems like a relatively low stakes way to do that to me.
It also enables like a different higher density, like modes of development, probably in some areas. I mean, I was looking at this saying like, why do we even limit it to 1944? Why don't we just take the date out and just allow this everywhere?
No, because you don't want it on non-conforming. The only reason the 1944 is there is because that was before we had zoning regs. So
Yeah.
they didn't have a choice. They just built where they wanted to build on the lot.
I think my rationale with the 1944 is what you have a lot of in this town are garages that are stuck up against side yards.
Right.
And to Doug's point, if you bought a house and now all of a sudden the garage that's right next to your property line is being converted into an ADU, that's gonna like, that's a little close, right? So this, unless that garage was here in 1944, which most weren't, that wouldn't be, you could have an ADU, but you'd have to shift it over and meet the 15-foot setback. So cause I had the same thought, like, why would we even do this? And then I could just think of that could lead to problems, not problems, but that could lead to concerns with neighbors. So it's really gonna limit the number of structures that are eligible, that are non-conforming, that could be converted.
And when you look at area in the beach areas, the beach neighborhoods, they're gonna have so much trouble with septic to begin with.
Yeah.
They're gonna have a hard time.
Right,
Yeah.
there's a lot of
Especially
other
Saybrook Manor,
recommendations.
Indian Town, Chalker Beach, on Great Hammock.
And we're requiring an extra off-street spot. Yeah, so if you only had two off-street.
And only
spots
one
to your
driveway.
house, now you need to make sure there's room for a third one.
Right. But you can only have one driveway.
Right. And if you just turned your garage into an apartment, that might have been one of your spots.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, and the good thing about accessory apartments is there are substantial limitations on them under the rest of the regulation. Like, they can't be rented for less than 30 days.
Yeah.
Right, so there's like an Airbnb.
Yeah.
Restriction on it. The owner has to live in one of the two units. So you can't just, all right, here's 2 units, I'm gonna rent this out and maximize my income. The owner's gotta be on site. So that's one of the benefits of promoting ADUs is because they're,
And then you have to recertify it every 5 years.
yeah, and you gotta research that.
And if you sell the house, they have to recertify it. It doesn't automatically carry over.
There's other some changes around like just the indoor shower and like bathing. Was that added because we have had issues with like?
Yeah, I think
Chris, was you, we only have an outdoor.
Yeah, Chris was trying to define that, when is something an accessory and when is it not, and in order to be, you have to have a shower, I guess, inside in order.
Well, yeah, it could be separate bathroom and a kitchen, but I guess
Yeah.
there's someone said, you got an outdoor shower and here's your kitchen. That's. I like that. I was just curious, what was the reasoning for like adding those clarifications in?
I think because people were trying to get away with
Yeah,
an outdoor shower or no real shower or bathtub.
Right.
Just.
And a legal ADU,
Right.
yeah.
they didn't
No, I
want
mean,
that.
it's gotta be like a dwelling unit, so it's gotta have all.
Right.
Requirements.
So I think she's just being more specific.
Yeah,
Can I be a little nitpicky about that section in particular? It says an accessory apartment is not an accessory apartment, the way you read it. So an accessory apartment that fails to include indoor bathroom, indoor shower, indoor bathtub does not qualify as an accessory apartment. If we could change the first one and not call it an accessory apartment, that would be helpful.
Wait, there's a redundant-
Oh, so you're saying an apartment that fails to include.
Or an occupied space or something.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, so we're also striking out, I guess the first part of the strikeout is having at least the minimum area as required by these regulations for the district where the lot is located. Right, with me in paragraph B, the first part of the strikeout,
Yeah,
having at least the minimum area as required by the regulations for the district. So that's the zoning regulations, right?
Yes.
So we're kind of just setting all those aside and saying there's no limit now.
If you can fit an accessory apartment on your property, you can have one.
Right.
Without regard to 12.5 or 40,000 or whatever the minimum lot sizes are.
I mean, I think that's okay.
But you have to meet all the setbacks.
Right.
But you have to meet the setbacks unless the building's.
So we're giving
And covered, yeah.
people more freedom to use their land how they want to.
Some degree, yeah.
To some degree, we're giving a little bit more flexibility here.
In the public water issue, I brought that up. I'm not sure how that weighs in, just pointing it out.
Yeah, no,
Because this is global, if,
right.
it gets pulled out, it has global implications.
Are there any requirements about like a well to get like an ADU certificate, like to be able to generate so much like water, kind of like with this, your septic size or?
Just septic side.
Yeah.
Because you're basically adding a bedroom or two bedroom.
Right. And these have to be, they've probably served off whatever well is already serving the house.
You gotta be careful because the septic and the fields have to be so many feet from the well
Right.
and the neighbor's well. So even if you've got an acre of land, that could be tricky. Because you might already have a 4-bedroom house.
Yeah, I'm assuming most people aren't digging another well for their apartment and another septic system, they're just connecting it as in what's already serving. That's my assumption. And we're not requiring them to do either one, they can.
It depends. It depends, because I'm going through this myself right now. And I have to upgrade my septic. And thankfully it was put in 1958, so it's time to replace it anyway, so it's no big deal. But if it was already brand new, it would probably be cheaper for me to put in a separate septic than to replace what I already have. And I'm lucky enough that I have the land for the fields because they have to extend the field.
Yeah.
So it's not that easy, and you have to go through Crad to get that done, and then that's gotta go to Jeff Jacobson to make sure it meets all these requirements.
Yeah, no, everything, the septic ends up being the limiting on almost every lot in town, really. That's.
And I think that's part of the purpose of this is to have, instead of arbitrary 12.5, have really septic and setbacks be the limiting factor.
Right. The actual limiting factor is the land itself.
Right.
And what you have on the property. Any other questions?
We make a.
Yeah, I noticed, I'll just add, and it's probably not gonna really help the discussion, but for residents, AAA district, minimum lot area served by public water supply, 40,000 square feet, about an acre. Not served by public water, 60,000, like an acre and a half. So it's to your argument, septic and wells aren't good.
Right, and they're gonna limit what can be done.
Right.
And most of the properties north of Route 1 are well.
And all that would still apply with these changes here.
Absolutely, none of that changes.
We don't have a lot of 12,000 square foot lots north of Route 1.
Doubt it. I doubt it.
So we ready for a motion?
We'll just wait, make sure.
Yeah.
Anything else? And make a motion to approve the accessory apartment regulation language change with the amendment in section F. The second additional line, an apartment that fails, not an accessory apartment. Can I get a second?
Second.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Do we want to just add that it's because it's in line with our residential, the POCD, like promoting accessory
Correct.
apartments, the concept of homeowners.
Which page?
Do you know what section is?
Policy, I've got page 16, residential policy 3.
Residential three.
Yeah. Okay, 3A.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstains? Or yes, one no. You. The next item on the agenda is the Teray subdivision. The Terays are looking for an extension of up to 90 days, filing of the Mylars on the land records.
Motion to approve the extension.
Thank you. Can I get a second? I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained? Thank you, Ed.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
All right. We're gonna table for the next agenda item. I talked with Chris earlier today, and the governor did sign into law that law, and we're waiting for Megan to provide the cliff notes so that we don't have to read the whole thing.
Megan's here tonight.
Yeah, I know. But we were also advised by our attorney that we probably are better off just holding steady for right now until we get into next year and see what the different opinions are on what's coming out of the law before we move forward. I think we'll move forward. It's just how we do it might change. So I think in the interest of not spending money, we wait. So,
Yeah, to hear from what sort of River College analysis is, because this is the way I read through it. There's just some steps I think either you need to do first and then we need to respond to regardless, but I think that's all still
yeah.
being figured out.
The cog's got a lot more work to do.
Yeah, yes, it did. Yes, it did. I hope you got a lot more funding too.
Yeah, so they say.
Yeah.
We'll see how far it goes.
Employees.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, a new staff position potentially.
The one that's
Yeah.
screaming in the background, she needs to get to work.
And so the cogs are working together on a Cliff Notes summary,
Oh, that's great.
which we should have by early next week.
Oh, wow, okay, very good,
Mhm.
very good. I don't believe there's any committee or representative staff report. Regarding the next meeting, right now, there is nothing scheduled. And it being just before the holiday, I believe we'll be canceling it.
Officially?
Yeah.
Okay.
I told Chris I'm gonna be out of town for work that week anyway, so it's
Perfect.
no business, we'll have to zoom in,
And then
last thing to worry about.
when we come back in January, I won't have to do all the talking.
Thank you for being such a good leader the last,
Thank you.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that. Been a pleasure. And with that, I'll say motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All right. Any opposed? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And thank you again. Thank you for all your support and wish you all Merry Christmas or whatever holiday you do. Celebrate.